Join us on Patreon and become part of our journey to uncover history's untold stories. Your support helps us create in-depth content, bring hidden narratives to life, and keep history alive for everyone.
History is a mirror through which humanity often gazes to understand its identity, its journey, and its shared destiny. But mirrors, as we know, can distort, sometimes deliberately so. They can hide as much as they reveal. And in the case of one of the most influential figures in human history, the distortion is staggering. The image of Jesus Christ, as it has been presented for centuries, is one of a fair-skinned, light-haired, Europeanized figure. This portrayal is deeply ingrained in Western culture, art, and collective memory. Yet, for millions of people across the globe, the very idea of a black Jesus remains controversial, marginalized, or outright erased. The implications of this erasure are vast, and they point to a deeper, more insidious history of power, identity, and control. Why is it so difficult for many to accept that Jesus, a man born in the Middle East over 2,000 years ago, would not have resembled the European depictions that dominate popular consciousness? Why has the image of a black Jesus been systematically excluded, vilified, or ignored? These questions lead us to unsettling answers that span colonialism, racism, theological manipulation, and the deliberate rewriting of history to serve particular agendas. To truly understand the erasure of black Jesus, we must first confront the uncomfortable realities of historical geography. Jesus of Nazareth was a Jew living in first-century Palestine, a region that served as a crossroads of African, Asian, and Mediterranean civilizations. The people of this area were diverse, their physical appearances reflecting a blending of these regions. Yet, the European image of Jesus began to emerge centuries later, not as a reflection of historical reality, but as a tool for consolidating power and reinforcing cultural hegemony. The early Christian church was born in a context of persecution and diversity, spreading across regions that encompassed North Africa, the Levant, and the Mediterranean. In these early centuries, artistic depictions of Christ varied widely. In Ethiopian and Coptic Christian traditions, for example, Jesus was portrayed with features consistent with the local populations: dark skin, curly hair, and African features. These representations reflected the inclusive nature of the early Christian message, a message that transcended race and ethnicity. However, as Christianity became institutionalized within the Roman Empire, its image underwent a profound transformation. The Roman Emperor Constantine's adoption of Christianity in the 4th century marked a pivotal moment in the faith's history. What had been a persecuted, grassroots movement suddenly became aligned with imperial power. To consolidate this power, the image of Jesus needed to resonate with the empire's ruling class. Thus began the Europeanization of Christ. Artistic representations, particularly during the Byzantine and later Renaissance periods, began to depict Jesus with the features of a white European, a visual shorthand that aligned the divine with the dominant power structure. This transformation was not merely artistic. It carried profound ideological implications. A white Jesus became a symbol of European superiority, a justification for the colonial and imperial enterprises that would follow. The Middle Ages and the Age of Exploration saw European powers expand across the globe, subjugating vast populations in Africa, Asia, and the Americas. The image of a white Jesus was weaponized as part of this process. It reinforced the idea of Europeans as chosen, superior, and divinely ordained to rule over darker-skinned peoples. In Africa, this distortion took on particularly horrifying dimensions. European missionaries, often working hand-in-hand with colonial authorities, propagated a version of Christianity that emphasized submission and obedience. The image of a white Jesus was used to undermine African spiritual systems and to erase the rich history of African Christianity that predated European colonization. Few are taught today about the ancient Christian kingdoms of Nubia and Ethiopia, or about figures like Augustine of Hippo, a foundational theologian who was born in present-day Algeria. These erasures were not accidental. They were deliberate efforts to sever African people from their historical connection to Christianity and to establish European dominance. The erasure of a black Jesus from history also has profound psychological implications. For centuries, oppressed peoples have been told that the divine, the ultimate source of goodness, power, and salvation, looks nothing like them. This has been particularly damaging in the African diaspora, where enslaved peoples were forced to adopt a Christianity that depicted their oppressors as godlike. The white Jesus became a tool of control, a symbol of a system that dehumanized and exploited black bodies while sanctifying white supremacy. But history, like truth, has a way of resurfacing. In recent decades, scholars, theologians, and activists have worked tirelessly to reclaim the historical Jesus and to challenge the Eurocentric distortions that have dominated for so long. The movement to recognize a black Jesus is not just about correcting a historical oversight. It is about reclaiming identity, dignity, and agency. It is about reminding the world that divinity is not the exclusive property of any one race or culture. The fear surrounding the acknowledgement of a black Jesus is deeply rooted in the structures of power that have benefited from his erasure. To accept a black Jesus is to challenge the narratives that have upheld white supremacy. It is to confront the uncomfortable truth that much of what has been presented as universal Christianity is, in fact, a product of specific historical and cultural forces. It is to acknowledge that the divine is not confined to the images and ideologies of the powerful, but is found in the full spectrum of human diversity. This erasure also speaks to a broader discomfort with the intersections of race and religion. For many, the idea of a black Jesus forces a reckoning with the ways in which faith has been used to justify inequality. It challenges believers to think critically about the messages they have internalized and the systems they have supported. It demands a reimagining of the sacred, one that embraces the multiplicity of human experiences rather than privileging one over others. The implications of recognizing a black Jesus extend far beyond theology. They touch on issues of representation, justice, and historical accountability. In art, literature, and popular culture, the image of Jesus remains one of the most reproduced in human history. Reimagining this image as one that reflects the historical realities of his time and place has the power to inspire a more inclusive and equitable vision of humanity. The journey to reclaim a black Jesus is not without its challenges. It requires confronting centuries of entrenched beliefs and dismantling deeply ingrained systems of power. It requires courage, humility, and a commitment to truth. But it is a journey worth undertaking, for it leads to a deeper understanding of the divine and of ourselves. It reminds us that history is not a fixed narrative but a dynamic tapestry, one that we all have a responsibility to examine, question, and reshape. In the end, the story of Black Jesus is not just about a man who lived in first-century Palestine. It is about the ways in which we see each other and ourselves. It is about the images we hold sacred and the values they represent. It is about reclaiming a history that has been obscured and using it to build a future rooted in truth, justice, and love. The erasure of Black Jesus is a cautionary tale about the dangers of allowing history to be written by the powerful. But it is also a story of resilience, resistance, and the enduring power of the human spirit to seek and reveal the truth.